This podcast is sponsored by the following sponsors. The RealReal. Buy and sell luxury clothing, bags, and more on The RealReal. Get $25 off your first purchase when you go to therealreal.com/happy. Shopify. The e-commerce platform I trust for Glōci. Sign up for your $1 a month trial period at shopify.com/happy. Brevo. Meet the all-in-one marketing and CRM platform for your business. Get started free or save 50% for 3 months with code HAPPY at brevo.com/happy. Airbnb. Start making money by listing your home on Airbnb with the support of an experienced co-host. Find a co-host at airbnb.com/host.
It's not so much about what you're going to get, right? It's not the wealth or the health or the freedom or whatever. It's who you become. And so overcoming the old self, coming up against the barriers, the walls of your limited beliefs, coming up against your doubt, your fear, coming up against your pain, coming up against your fatigue, and going past that is where the miraculous happens.
Welcome back to the Earn Your Happy podcast. You guys, I have these things that I call domino habits. And no, it's not Domino's Pizza. Although it sounds pretty good right now. These are habits that when you do this one habit in the morning towards the beginning of the day, that it's like a domino effect. It starts tipping things in the direction that you want. So picture the opposite. Actually, this could be a domino habit too. Eating a bunch of sugar, eating leftover cake from the night before, eating leftover pizza from the night before, and that's how you start your day. It's like that is the type of habit that you are now going to tip more dominoes on throughout the day, right? It's just one bad habit after another. So the way that you start that first habit, like honestly, those first 3 habits are going to be how your day plays out. And this is why I created Glōci. It's truly a domino habit that is very simple. A domino habit is very, very simple. And it's something that you can do and that you can keep up with. But what it does is it starts pushing down those dominoes in the right direction. Because if your first 3 are good, right? If you make good choices, like I'm going to have a low sugar, maybe high protein breakfast. I'm going to drink Glōci because I'm going to fill my body with water and electrolytes and hydration and a probiotic and hyaluronic acid and vitamin C and magnesium and all the great stuff that's in it. And then you go for a walk. Like these are domino habits that are tipping the day in your favor. So if you haven't tried it yet, add a domino habit. And I promise you, your day is going to start going your way if you start with 3 of these. And Glōci is a huge one. And the reason that these work is because it's telling yourself that you're doing something good for yourself and you're worthy of doing great things and that you follow through on good habits. So start with 3 domino habits in the morning. I promise you, it's how you tip the scales in your favor. So you can go to getglōci.com and use code HAPPY. You guys, 30 days, try 3 healthy domino habits in your favor, having Glōci be one of them. And I promise you, it just like starts turning your life around. It's simple, it's easy, and it works. All right. So I'm doing throwback series of my favorite podcasts, my favorite guests, people who just blew my mind, people who have been on my journey, who changed my life. And this one is Joe Dispenza. I found him really early on in my journey. And the best part of this conversation is that Joe Dispenza completely changed my life. And he came to my house when I lived in Santa Monica for this interview. And I literally got to hang out with him for a little while. And it was amazing. I'm like, that is did not disappoint, you guys. So I found today's guest early on and he completely shifted everything for me. So he's a part of my best hits series. And that is, again, the Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a New York Times bestselling author, researcher, lecturer, and corporate consultant. Known for his work on self-healing and personal transformation, he shares real stories and evidence of the power we all have to transform our lives by shifting our energy and consciousness. He shares how we can literally rewire our brains and heal our bodies by embracing intention and emotion. It's not about trying to control the future, but trusting the process and surrendering to the unknown. He also highlights how your environment shapes the life that you live, how we can break free from negative patterns to create something new. And looking back at this conversation is a reminder that real transformation happens when we consciously shift from survival mode to thriving. Truly, it doesn't feel like a choice, but you guys, it is a conscious choice and it takes so much work. And that's what Dr. Joe is about. He walks through how to be more aware of your thoughts, emotions, and actions to unlock the power to change your life in profound ways. If you guys stay really open to this episode, I'm telling you, you're going to go down the Joe Dispenza rabbit hole. And I hope that you do. I hope that it changes your life as much as it changed mine. He shares so many powerful stories, you guys. And I just want to mention, this episode is not a replacement for medical advice, but there are so many powerful lessons in this episode for anyone who is on a growth journey. It's just incredibly insane what I have seen him do since we recorded this podcast a few years ago. So you guys, let's get started.
I'm so excited that you are here right now in the flesh. And this is a crazy story, you guys, because he literally has been a part of my journey for, I don't even know, probably about 6 years. And I can trace back moments to things that you have said that made me understand why I need to think differently. And that is pretty much the basis of everything that's changed my life and that I've taught on in order to be able to become the person who's able to create the things that I wanted for my life. So to have you here, I'm kind of just like, wow.
Well, I'm happy to be with you.
It works.
It does work. The hardest part is making time to do it, really.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And that's the truth, because I was listening to a podcast that you were on right before you had gotten here. So you were just on a walk with me, and it's incredible how, I can read your books, I can learn about all the different things, but I can forget. It's like I go to sleep and get spiritual amnesia and wake up and I'm like, what do we do again?
Yeah,
why is this important?
It's so much easier to forget our vision than to remember it, And I think it takes a little practice in the beginning. And I do think it's a formula. And just like any skill that you begin to master, you got to go through the steps. And as you go through the steps, in time, those steps start to merge together and they become one step. And look, I don't want it to become mechanical. We're innately wired to be creators. That's who we are when we're not living in survival or living in stress. That's when we're really doing the most amazing things. And it just takes a little practice.
So I know your story, but I would love for you to share that you are a product of what you're teaching and how that all kind of came about.
Sure. I mean, in 1986, I was in Palm Springs, California. I was in the biking portion of a triathlon. I was coming to a corner and I was making a turn. And there was a police officer on the corner and he was pointing at me and he was waving me to make the turn. And I was going to pass these two cyclists on the corner. The problem was he had his back to the oncoming traffic. So the moment I made the turn, this four-wheel drive Bronco going 55 miles an hour just caught me from behind and dragged me down the road. And so I wound up breaking 6 vertebrae in my spine, compression fractures. And when you land on your back or you land on your rump, the compression of the force that's created in a downward motion collapses the vertebrae. The columns, they begin to crush. So I'd broken 6 of those vertebrae. When you compress that volume, bone fragments have to go somewhere. So they went back on my spinal cord. And the arch of the 8th thoracic vertebrae, the top vertebrae that I had broken, the arch that the spinal cord passed through had broken like a pretzel. So I had multiple compression fractures of my thoracic spine. I had bone fragments on my spinal cord, and I had the neural arch of the 8th thoracic vertebrae broken. And now the typical procedure for something like this is what's called the Harrington rod surgery. So they cut off the back parts of your vertebrae. In my case, it would be from the base of my neck to the base of my spine. So they take off all of the back parts of the vertebrae called the lamina, screw in these long stainless steel rods.
Wow.
And when you screw them in, they act as a cantilever and they kind of pull the bony fragments off the cord. And then they take bone fragments from your hip, scrape it off, and they place it over the top and hope for the best to stabilize the injured area. And the prognosis is if I didn't have that, I'd probably never walk again. So I had 4 opinions from 4 of the leading surgeons in Southern California. In 1986, nobody turned the surgery down. So I just thought about it, and I thought, God, if it was probably a patient of mine, I'd probably refer them for the surgery, but this was me, and I wasn't so quick to just sign on the dotted line. And in fact, The doctors were really frustrated with me because they thought I had a head injury or post-traumatic stress disorder because I wasn't just doing what they asked me to do. Anyway, long story short, after a week, I decided against the surgery. And I decided, well, listen, there's some intelligence that's giving me life. It's keeping my heart beating. It's digesting my food. It's organizing trillions of functions every second. It knows how to heal way better than Joe Dispenza does. I'm a personality. I'm an identity. But this intelligence is giving me life. And so I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. I'm basically laying face down. I have some neurological problems. And I'm going to make contact with this intelligence, and I'm going to give it a plan. I'm going to give it a template. I'm going to give it a design, exactly what I want. And then I'm going to surrender this creation once I'm satisfied with exactly what I want to a greater mind, and it will do the healing for me. And then I said, I'm not going to let any thought slip by my awareness that I don't want to experience. Now, that sounds really good from a philosophical standpoint, but when you're in crisis or trauma, we tend to focus on what we don't want to have happen instead of what we do want to have happen. And that's because the hormones of stress always prepare us for the worst. So we're always selecting the worst case scenario in our mind and bracing ourselves for that outcome, because in survival, you have better chances of living or surviving if you prepare for the worst. Anything less that happens is better.
So we're fighting wiring.
That's exactly what it was. I'm rewiring my brain. And I reasoned that this intelligence was a consciousness, and consciousness is awareness, and awareness is paying attention. So it's present with me all the time, and it's paying attention to me. It's me that's not present with it. So I had to be present in order to give it a very specific design. So I would start off doing the creation of reconstructing my vertebrae. The next thing you know, I'd be thinking about living in a wheelchair. Then I'd say, oh, that's not what I want. I'd catch myself, like you said. I went unconscious, and then I became conscious that I went unconscious, and I'd stop and I'd start all over again. Now, this was very tedious the first 6.5 weeks because I couldn't get my mind to do what I wanted it to do. That was the hard part. The side effect of that caused me to feel frustration, anger, resentment, impatience, all those emotions that really drive us to a lower denominator and direct blood flow to the hindbrain and away from the forebrain. So my focus would go down, and then I get more upset. And it would take me 3 hours sometimes to reconstruct these vertebrae. And I was never pleased at the end until one time I went through the whole entire thing, about 6.5 weeks, and it felt like I hit a tennis ball right in the sweet spot, like I hit a golf ball just right. Something clicked. I clicked. Everything started changing. And what I didn't know was that I was practicing the art of paying attention and being present. And I was also firing and wiring and rewiring my brain. So I had assembled enough circuits that it started getting easier. And I went through the whole entire thing without losing my focus. And I did it in 45 minutes instead of 3 hours. And all of a sudden I was on to something, because in that moment, I started noticing significant changes in my health. I started noticing the pain going away, the neurological conditions changing. And I just started to say, okay, whatever I'm doing inside of me is producing some effect outside of me. So I'm going to do it now with joy and enthusiasm and excitement. And all of a sudden, my attitude started changing. I started getting happy. And in 10.5 weeks, I was back on my feet. At 12 weeks, I was back living my life. And they told me that if I decided to try to stand up, I'd have to wear this body cast for a year. Well, I put the cast on for maybe 10 minutes and said, there's no way I'm going to live in this thing.
No.
And I just made a deal with myself, really, Lori. And I just said, if I was able to heal myself, I'd spend the rest of my life studying the mind-body connection and mind over matter. And I've been doing that since 1986.
Okay. So many questions. So when you say that you were making that connection with a higher consciousness, something that's bigger than you inside of you, did you have that relationship before, or do you feel like it got more awakened after your accident?
Well, in order for us to wake up, some of us need a wake-up call. And that was my call. I mean, this was no longer dinner conversation. This was no longer philosophical arguments or theoretical ideas. This is practicum now. And this is where the rubber hits the road. So I had to take, and by the way, the one thing that really helped me a lot was I never stopped learning. I said, okay, if I am going to do this, I gotta get information so that I understand what I'm doing and why. And once you understand what you're doing and why, the how gets easier. So I would just read. I'd rethink things and I'd go back at it again. And so there was a period of time where there wasn't a lot happening. You're crossing a river and you're looking for evidence and you don't get any evidence. And so most people just give up. But I had no alternative. There was nothing else that I could, I made the choice. I couldn't look back. And you're in trouble in your life when you have to make a very serious decision. Like, do I get the surgery or not? And your friends say to you, we know you're going to make the right choice, which really means I'm so glad I'm not you. Right? Because nobody wants to be faced with that kind of decision. So for me, there wasn't a lot of evidence going on that proved that it was possible. But there was something in me that said, the power that made the body heals the body. It happens no other way. And it's not something very mystical. It's a function of when we truly connect to something greater. And you can call it whatever you want, but most people forget that it's not outside of them. It literally is within us. And so you have to take your attention off all the people in your life, all the things you own, the place you need to go, the place you live, your body and time itself. And you literally have to get locked into that present moment. And now you're present with a greater intelligence. And just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So my relationship with it, or during that time and to this present day, is a very real relationship. And how do you develop a relationship with anybody? You make time for them. You connect with them. You commune with them. You experience with them. You learn with them. You keep your word with them. You show up for your date. And you make them a priority. And it's that kind of relationship that begins to cause it to begin to respond in unusual ways. Now, this is the key point, because when we're creating a new experience for most people, where they want something new, whether it's a new job, a new career, a new lifestyle, a new relationship, a healthy body. They're selecting a new possibility in their mind, and they're getting busy thinking about how they're going to create that. That's a healthy process. The problem with the creative process is that we have this idea, and then we select a new potential in the quantum field, and we get inspired, we get excited, and we're combining a clear intention with an elevated emotion. And when you do that properly, you begin to change your brain and body from living in the past present reality to living in a future present reality. The problem happens, though, when you open your eyes and you say, what happened to my bank account? What happened to where's my new relationship? And the moment we open our eyes and our senses fool us back into separation, we try harder. We force it. We hope, we wish, we pray. We try to control or predict it. And now we're back to living by the laws of the Newtonian world. In fact, the unknown is going to come in a way that you haven't predicted or expected. It's going to come in a new way, and it's going to surprise you and catch you off guard. And it's going to leave no doubt that it's come from your connection to this greater mind. So then when people start rushing to make it happen, they're back to their old personality. They're their old self trying to create something new, matter to matter. But when you start connecting to this field of possibilities called the quantum field, this invisible field of energy that's carrying information, and you create from the field, you can exert greater effects on matter. And so when the synchronicities, the serendipities, the coincidences, the opportunities start to show up in your life, you're going to start correlating what you did inside of you to produce that effect outside of you. And you're going to go from living as a victim in your life to believing more that you are the creator of your life. Now, what do I mean by victim? This is an unconscious program. You say to a person, why are you unhappy? What's wrong with you today? They'll say, I am this way because of that person or that experience, which really means then that person is literally controlling how they feel and how they think. And if something outside of you is controlling how you feel and think, then you're a victim to that person or thing. So then when you're able to self-regulate and change your inner state and change your inner state of being so that it begins to change how you think and feel, and it starts to produce effects in your life, now you're changing your energy. And when you change your energy, you change your life. And nobody changes until they change their energy, period. So then it's not enough to just do it in the meditation or do it in your spiritual practice like we started out with, and then get up and go unconscious. That's not the answer. You got to maintain that modified state of mind and body the entire day, independent of the conditions in your environment, independent of the pain in your body, independent of time. And if you do, get ready because something unusual will happen. That's the law. So people are starting to figure this out now. And so they make time to have a relationship with this intelligence and they give it time and they emulate it as a creator. And the side effect of that is not only more things happen in their life, but a greater sense of joy, a greater sense of holism. You know, you feel so whole, you feel so happy with yourself, you no longer want anything. I think that's a good place to be because when you no longer want anything, you're no longer living in lack. And that's when the magic starts to happen because you're creating no longer from polarity or duality. You're creating from oneness. And I think that when we've measured this with people, their neurotransmitters actually change. Their oxytocin levels, the love chemical is just 200 times more elevated than an average person. They're so in love with life, and it has nothing to do with a person or a thing. They're just regulating a state, and they wouldn't give this feeling up for anybody. And I would call that the beginning of unconditional love.
Okay, so I need 2 or 3 hours. So I want to go back to when you had started picturing healing your body. For people who have something that because they're right now, they're all picturing something that they want to change, a feeling that they want, something that they desire in their life. And you talked a little bit about lack, but also about because you were a doctor, you were able to see your spine. You were able to really actually go in there and see yourself healing. So you kind of, saw more of the picture. For people who can't see the picture yet, how do we piece that together?
Well, this is a fundamentally great question because now remember, that was 1986.
Yeah.
I'm a different guy than 1986, and I've learned a ton since then. Let me say this, that probably for me was the best way for me to get present enough to access a greater level of energy, right? Okay. But we have people right now, Lori, that are healing from stage 4 cancer. I got 2 emails last week of 2 people with stage 4 cancer, 50 brain tumors one guy had.
Oh my God.
9 in his spinal cord, 50 in his brain, 20 seizures a day, stage 4 cancer. 3 times the doctors told him that he would never make it through the night. I just read his scan. 49 out of 50 tumors are gone. None are left in his brain stem. He has no seizures any longer. I mean, this is starting to become the new normal. Yeah. So now what I've learned in that initial stage is that it's not necessary that you have to picture anything.
Okay.
Think about this. Your personality creates your personal reality. Your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's listening to this show has created the present personal reality called their life. So if you want to create a new personal reality, a new life, you got to change your personality, which means you got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about. Become conscious of your unconscious thoughts. Become aware of how you speak, how you act. Do you complain? Do you blame? Do you make excuses? Do you feel sorry for yourself? And then you got to look at those emotions that keep you anchored to the past. That are related to some past experience that you're still feeling to this day. And you got to decide, do these emotions belong in my future? You see, most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. You literally have to become someone else. Now think about this. 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, unconscious beliefs, automatic emotional reactions, hardwired attitudes, perceptions that function just like a computer program. That means the moment you press go, you go unconscious, right? So think about it. 95% of who you are by the time you're 35 years old is unconscious programs. So then I assert that if you're not in the present moment, you're running a program. So the word meditation it literally means to become familiar with. So if you're sitting in a meditation and all of a sudden, all these thoughts are coming up. I want to quit. It's too hard. I don't know how to do this. I'm not good enough. It's my mother's fault. It's my ex-husband's fault. And all of a sudden, you're sitting there with your eyes closed and your brain is doing all of that. Sooner or later, you're going to start paying attention to these thoughts. Now, think about this. The moment you start observing those thoughts, those programs, You're no longer the program. You're the consciousness observing the program. In other words, who's doing the observing of the thought? That's who you really are when you're not in the program. So you begin to objectify your subjective self. So sitting there long enough and you become so familiar with those thoughts, I guarantee you in your waking day, when the thought comes up, you're going to say, not today. You're not going to let it slip by your awareness unnoticed. And if you start observing how you act, and you can become so conscious of what you say or how you act and the habits you have, and you become so aware of it that you catch yourself during the day not saying something that you typically say. And if you say, my God, I didn't even know that this was guilt. It just feels like me. I've been feeling like this for 25 years. I mean, I guess I'm happy being unhappy. And you start looking at those feelings. The moment you start gaining access to that, looking at yourself through the eyes of someone else, now you're no longer that personality, right? So then the fundamental question is, what thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? You could become so familiar with the old self that you won't go unconscious, but let's create a new self. So what thoughts do you want to put your attention on and fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors do you want to demonstrate today? And the act of closing your eyes and rehearsing your behaviors, rehearsing your actions, begins to install the neurological circuits in your brain to use in that day. You're priming your brain into the future. And if you keep doing it by installing that neurological hardware, the hardware will become a software program. And who knows, you just start acting like a happy person. Well, you install the circuits. You may start thinking in new ways. Well, you laid down the tracks. And now here's the tough part. Can you teach your body emotionally what that future will feel like before it happens? Now, most people are waiting for their wealth to feel gratitude and worthiness. They're waiting for their healing to feel wholeness. They're waiting for their new relationship to feel love. That's kind of the old model of reality of cause and effect, waiting for someone or something outside of you to take away your lack or your emptiness or pain. That's cause and effect. What if you're not creating? You spend your whole life living in lack or those limited emotions. But the quantum model of reality is about causing an effect, which means the moment you start feeling worthy, the moment you start feeling gratitude, you're generating wealth. The moment you start falling in love with yourself and falling in love with life, you're going to create an equal. The moment you start feeling whole, your healing begins. So then you're conditioning your brain and body into the future. It's biological, it's energetic, it's neurological, it's chemical, it's genetic, it's hormonal, it's all of those things that are switching. How do I know that? Because we've measured it. Okay, now back to your question. If you're doing this enough times every day, and we have people that have healed themselves from genetic disorders that medical science had no solution for, and you create a new personality, you're thinking differently. You're acting differently. You're feeling differently. You're signaling new genes in new ways. You're downregulating the genes for disease and you're upregulating the genes for health. And you're creating that emotion and you're combining it with your future, that intent. Your brain and body won't know the difference between the real world that's creating those emotions and feelings and the imaginary world. Your body's believing it's living in that future reality. And the stronger the emotion you feel, the more you pay attention to the pictures in your mind and you're remembering your future. So then a person then who is healed from stage 4 cancer or healed from diabetes or MS or lupus or whatever the condition is, they will tell you the disease exists in the old personality. I'm literally somebody else. So that's how fast the body can change. So you don't have to visualize the spine. You just got to become somebody else. And just like a person with a multiple personality disorder that has an allergy to nylon stockings in one personality and has diabetes in another and has different color eyes in another. I mean, you compartmentalize the brain, your body changes. So just like that, a person who becomes a new person, the disease cannot live in their body because they're literally someone else. So now, it's not so much about what you're going to get, right? It's not the wealth or the health or the freedom or whatever. It's who you become. And so overcoming the old self, coming up against the barriers, the walls of your limited beliefs, coming up against your doubt, your fear, coming up against your pain, coming up against your fatigue. And going past that is where the miraculous happens. And that's where people go. And they're doing it consistently. So then just like the 4-minute mile. Once the 4-minute mile was broken, everybody did it, right? It's the same thing that's happening now. We're seeing people wrapping their mind around this. And when a person stands on the stage in an event and they're healed in a week, and they say, I came here with Parkinson's disease. I couldn't move my face. I couldn't move my arm. I had these tremors. I don't know what just happened. I don't need my cane. I feel completely different. My face is moving again. I'm thinking clear. Like they got switched on. If you're witnessing that, and I stand behind the person and there's tears in the audience, everybody's so moved, and they don't look like a movie star. And they don't look young and buffed and beautiful and successful. They just look like a normal person. Sooner or later, you're going to say, God, if it happened to her, it could happen to me.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, there's this kind of equanimity that starts to create a new consciousness and a new energy. And just like an infection spreads amongst the community and creates disease, I believe that health and wellness and abundance is as infectious as disease. And you just got to get a group of people all making the effort.
Yes, I just got taken to church and I'm levitating. So,
no.
It's good. And it's true because you're reminding me of everything. You just took me down a journey of the things that I've also done in my life, but this beautiful reminder of how powerful it is because you can start to live that way. And I know so many of the listeners put a lot of this into practice, but it's also easy to kind of go back or forget when you're trying to really level up or go to the next level or expand into the person you believe that you're here to be. And I believe so much of it has to do with environment. So I would also love to hear what you say about when people are maybe in an environment that they don't feel is helpful for where they want to go.
Sure. I mean, I just talked to a dear friend of mine this morning, and he's going through a change in his relationship. And I said to him, just get away from the beehive. Step away from the beehive. Don't stay near the beehive. Look, I mean, so much of our reaction, consciously and unconsciously, comes from everything that's known in the environment. Now, I say, if you're not being defined by a vision of the future, then all you're left with is the memories of the past, which means if you're not creating a future, that means you're believing in your past more than you're believing in your future. If you're not falling in love with the new future, it means you're more in love with your past than you are with your future. So then if you're not creating on a daily basis, and the moment you wake up in the morning, and the brain is a record of the past, it's an artifact of everything we learned and experienced to this moment. So all the memories are lodged in your brain that are connected to people and things and objects and places and experiences in your past. So most people wake up in the morning. What's the first thing they do? They wake up and they start thinking about their problems. The moment they start thinking about their problems, their brain's in the past because they're memories. Every single memory or problem has an emotion associated with it. So now they start to feel unhappy. They start feeling frustrated. They start feeling fearful. And now their body's in the past because emotions are a record of the past. Now, thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So now a person's entire state of being unconsciously is in the past. The familiar past means you're anticipating the predictable future and nothing new can happen in your life. So think about this. A person who does this on a daily basis, then they wake up in the morning and they go through a series of routine behaviors. They get up, they go to the bathroom, they brush their teeth, they go get a cup of coffee, they let the cat out, they let the dog out. Then they go in the shower, they wash themselves the same way, they get dressed, they drive. It's a routine. And we could say then, if you do that over and over again, your body's going to go on autopilot and it's going to be dragging you into a predictable future based on what you did the day before in your past. In other words, most people lose their free will to a program. And there's no unseen hand doing that. So now, the moment you open your eyes and you come back to your senses, and our senses plug us into this three-dimensional reality, and you see the same people, and you go to the same places, and you do the exact same thing at the exact same time, And it's no longer that your personality is creating your personal reality. Now your personal reality is creating your personality. Why? Because what is your environment made of? People, bodies, things, objects, places, and time. So then the moment you come back to your senses and you open your eyes, you have a neurological network for your boss, for your ex, for your car, for your house. And every time you begin to interact with everything in your known environment, now your environment is literally controlling how you think and how you feel. And yet, how you think and how you feel creates your life. So if you're thinking equal to everything that you know in your environment, then nothing will ever change. To change then is to be greater than the environment, to be greater than the circumstances in your life. Now, where you place your attention is where you place your energy, which means then the stronger the emotional reaction you have to someone or something in your known life, the more you're going to pay attention to them, which means they've captured your attention, which means then you're giving your power away to that person or that problem, which means then you have an invisible energetic bond that's keeping everything in your life status quo equal to the emotions that you feel. So then take a person and teach them how to get beyond their environment, get beyond their body, and to get beyond time. That's the formula. And when they become nobody, no one, no thing, no where, and no time, they have no attention on anything material. They're disinvesting their attention and energy out of this three-dimensional reality, and they're connecting to something greater. So then as they're sitting there and the body says, well, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. You normally get in traffic and you get angry, but you're sitting in a retreat. So you're a little off schedule. So the body goes, I need to get a little anger going here because I'm addicted to that emotion. So what does it do? It starts sending signals to the brain. Oh my God, I hate my brother-in-law. Oh, I hate my ex-wife. You're looking for something for those chemicals,
Interesting.
right?
Yeah.
But if the person becomes aware of it, now this is the work. This is no longer philosophical. And their body is raging, just wanting a hit of that emotion. And they keep settling their body back down into the present moment. And they keep connecting to that field. Every time they do that, that's a victory.
Wow,
and they're telling the body it's no longer the mind, that they're the mind. And David is slaying Goliath. Now there's a shift that's starting to take place. And as they lower their volume to that emotion, they'll naturally take their attention off that person or thing, and they begin to break their energetic bonds with everything and everyone in their life, and they're calling energy back to them, and they're building their own electromagnetic field. We've measured this. Now they have energy to heal. Now they have energy to create a new future. Now they have energy to do something supernatural. And by the same means, when people wake up in the morning, they start thinking about all the people they have to see and the places they have to go and the things they have to do in their known familiar reality. If where you place your attention is where you place your energy, you're investing your attention and your energy into a known future. And there's no room for your unknown because your body's going to follow your mind to right where your attention is. So then every time the person is noticing they're sitting in their meditation, the body wants to get up, it's got to go to the bathroom, wants to quit, wants to open their eyes. And you say, excuse me, I'm going to feed you when I'm ready. You're going to take a shower when I say, you're not going to die sitting here. You're going to be okay. We're going to do some work here. Now, that's when the will gets greater than the program. And when a person becomes aware that they're putting their attention on something known and they stop and they return back to the present moment and they disinvest their attention and energy out of that known experience in their life, they make room for the unknown. And so now you're making room for the synchronicities and the opportunities. So the environment then is incredibly seductive because if you want to control people, control their emotions, and emotions come from our reaction to the environment. So then the emotions of stress, like anger and hatred and frustration and resentment and competition and violence and fear and anxiety and vigilance and depression and hopelessness and powerlessness and pain and suffering. They're all created by the hormones of stress. I mean, and so those type of emotional reactions draw energy from us. We literally shrink our field because we're taking energy and turning it into chemistry. And you keep doing that over a period of time, the field around your body shrinks, and now you have no energy to heal. So then the idea then, when people start to connect to this invisible field, is actually to restore energy. And we've seen it. We've got enough brain scans. We have enough heart monitor measurement, HRV measurements. We have enough genetic tests. We have enough immune system tests. We have enough telomere tests, neurotransmitter tests to show that in 4 days, people can change their genetic expression.
Wow.
In 4 days, they can make their immune system 50% stronger just by trading one of those limited emotions for gratitude, for appreciation, for kindness, for love, for inspiration. Those different emotions are no longer connected to survival. And all of a sudden now, you're down-regulating genes that have to do with disease, and you're up-regulating genes for health. And a person starts stepping away from their past.
So good. So you mentioned, you were talking about running a program, and I freaking love that, running a program, because this makes me think about when we go and we interact with other people. And so many of us can be going on that dream and starting to change our environment, but maybe we have to go back home to our family, that person that triggers us, or maybe we have to, go start confronting public speaking. It's like remembering, number one, running a program, but also that other people are running programs. So how do you not take things personally or navigate the world of that reflection too?
This is a great question again, because look, I assert that 95% of the time, everybody's running a program and they're unconscious. So I can't take it personally.
Yeah,
and I'm
awesome.
doing it too. Right. But if you're engaged in the work, if you're engaged in personal transformation and you are in the river of change, and you're uncomfortable because you're not thinking the same way, you're not acting the same way, you're making different choices, you don't feel the same way. Everybody thinks that's bad. That's actually good. You're in the river. You're out of the known. It just doesn't feel familiar to you. It's not predictable. Now, this void is the perfect place to create from. This is where the magic happens. So if you're truly engaged in the work and you're sitting and you're realizing the type of Herculean effort it takes to change, and you see somebody, you're more prone to think, God, I used to be just like that person. You only react to them when you're like them. When you're really over it, you just say, wow, like you see a child that's throwing a tantrum. You're just like, oh, he's unhappy. But it's not like it has anything to do with you.
Right.
So you start becoming less offended because you understand where people are at or where you're at in your own evolution. And then why would you judge? Like, imagine we interview people whose hearts are so coherent, their neurotransmitters are so elevated for love. They say, I feel so whole. I feel so incredible. I'm so in love with life. That I don't want to judge, because if I judge, I'm going to lose this feeling. I don't want to lose this feeling. I want to keep this feeling going. So they're coveting the feeling and they're growing the feeling and they want more of it. And the research just on oxytocin says that if your oxytocin levels are slightly elevated, it's impossible to hold a grudge.
Wow.
It's impossible to hold. You forgive naturally. You trust naturally. So I call that the natural state of being. So it's, you got to peel away the traumas from the past. But if I say to you, well, Lori, why are you this way? I'm just curious. And you say, well, I had a father who was a perfectionist and he was an alcoholic and he came home and he yelled at everybody. And I would say, oh, so you haven't changed since 8 years old? You've been that, you haven't changed since those experiences, right? Because you've changed in some way, but on some level that's holding you back, right? So then when a person overcomes the emotions and the memories of those past experiences and there's no charge, that's called wisdom. Wisdom is the memory without the emotional charge. And now you get to create something new. So how does the soul now create something new if you're still living by the emotions of your past? The soul wants the adventure, but if you're still suffering, it says, I can't go. You gotta finish the suffering, because if you're suffering, you're still connected to your past and you're looking that way to the past instead of looking to your future. So people have 1,000 reasons, and I'll always say, okay, I got it. Now what? So now what? Okay, so what are you going to do now? Okay, let's take your ex-husband and let's put him in a straitjacket and let's put duct tape on him. Let's shoot him to the moon. Now what? What are you going to do now?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Sooner or later, you still gotta climb out, right?
Yeah.
So it's not so important then the incident. What's important is the emotion, because emotions are energy, and how much of people's creative energy is tied up in guilt, is tied up in suffering, is tied up in self-analysis and judgment. How much of people's creative energy is tied up in prejudice or hostility or anger or frustration? That's available energy that they could use to create a new future. So sooner or later you think, well, it's a scientific fact that the hormones of stress downregulate genes and create disease. Okay. The long-term effects of that really make us feel sick. And if I can turn on that stress response just by thought alone, my thoughts are going to make me sick.
Wow.
So if my thoughts could make me sick, can my thoughts make me well? And then you think, well, my ex-husband is a real pain in the ass and I don't like him. But sooner or later, you're going to have to say, well, every time I react to him, I'm the only person that's really being affected by it is me. And this isn't loving to me. And now you start making those changes because those hormones of stress are so addictive because they give the brain and body a rush of energy. They arouse the brain and body. So people start using the problems and conditions in their life to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion. They need the ex-husband to feel that emotion. And if he left, they'd find somebody else. So it's not the person, right? So then people become addicted to the life they don't even like. And so then this is why change is so hard, because the hardest part of change is not making the same choices you did the day before. And get ready. The moment you make a different choice, it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're in the unknown. That's a good thing. That's the perfect place to create from. And being uncomfortable and being okay with it. And then working, taking that irritation and turning it into gold, turning it into a pearl, turning it into something, because you can, right? And you could have 1,000 reasons every day to be unhappy. I do. But you got to make a choice sooner or later. Are you going to go unconscious? Because the moment you start feeling uncomfortable, you got one of two choices: forget everything you've learned and go back to the program, or stay awake. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be hard, but sooner or later, you're going to climb on top of it and you're going to say, I'm not that person any longer. And so many people that stick with it, they wake up one day and they say, I forgot. I haven't had a pain in my body in the last 2 months. And I just was so busy living my life. I forgot I had pain. I didn't have any, it just went away. It's not like they had to do anything. They just had to overcome the aspect of themselves that kept them stuck.
I'm so excited to share that this podcast is sponsored by The RealReal, the best place to shop authenticated luxury bags, clothing, watches, and so much more. Personally, I love finding unique, elevated pieces that feel like me, and The RealReal is one of my favorite places to discover them. Whether I'm looking for a one-of-a-kind Zimmermann dress or a classic YSL bag, I know I'm getting something super special and I'm getting it at a great value. The RealReal is attainable luxury that upgrades your personal style. With up to 90% off retail, you can finally have the pieces you've been dreaming of from brands like Gucci, Fendi, Prada, and so many others. Unlike other resale sites, everything The RealReal sells is authenticated in person by luxury and fashion experts. The RealReal is the go-to place for your next special piece. Need a dress for a fancy wedding? The perfect vacation sandals? Ready to invest in a new bag to add to your collection? Find exactly what you're looking for that no one else has at The RealReal. The RealReal is the world's largest and most trusted resource for authenticated luxury resale. With thousands of new arrivals daily, no one does resale like The RealReal. And now get $25 off your first purchase when you go to therealreal.com/happy. That's therealreal.com/happy to get your $25 off. Start shopping now at therealreal.com/happy. I know we're always looking to take our business and marketing to the next level. So meet Brevo, the all-in-one marketing and CRM platform designed to help you connect with customers, drive engagement, and grow your business. With Brevo, you can manage all your customers' interactions in one place. Nurture leads through their built-in CRM, reach them through email and SMS, and boost retention with powerful automations. Effortlessly create personalized multi-channel campaigns that ensure every single customer gets the right message at the right time. And that's not all. Brevo offers AI-driven personalization, advanced analytics, seamless integrations, and more, giving you everything you need to market smarter, not harder. Get started for free today or use code HAPPY to save 50% on starter and business plans for the first 3 months of an annual subscription. Head to www.brevo.com/happy and take your marketing further with Brevo. When I was very first starting Glōci, one of the most important things that we wanted to make sure we had was an incredible customer experience when they were on the website and when they were checking out. And I knew that it would be so incredibly important to make it seamless for them. And that is why we chose Shopify, because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's home of the #1 checkout on the planet and the not so secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%. And we all know if you don't have a great experience, you're going to bounce. And that is not a good thing for a business. And with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, that means way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales are going. Cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout I use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/happy. That's all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/happy to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/happy.
And when they did, and they finally made their way across the river to the other side, new people, new experiences, new opportunities. And now they're so happy with who they are. They could care less if they have a disease. And that's the moment it goes away. The moment it goes away is when you say, I'm so happy with me, I really don't care. And that's the moment all of a sudden you let go and that intelligence steps in and does the healing for you.
Oh, okay. So, okay. I'm like trying to say how I feel without calling out my family members. Do you know those moments that I'm talking about? But it's just the focusing on a problem and not having anything else in your life to focus on. And I've been there. That's what I came from, is being so consumed in like letting life happen and focusing on that rather than actually creating. And I love that you talk so much about creating, because in our lives, we go through different phases of creating too. So sometimes we have this beautiful vision and it's incredible and we reach it. And then other times we're like, now what? Yeah. And it's tough to know what's next. And I just came out of a season. This is why I'm asking this. I came out of a kind of like a winter season where I just reached all my dreams. I felt really incredible. I was in this beautiful phase in my life. But then I had this point of, I don't know what's next, and it's not what I was doing. And I felt very lost. Like I felt like I was falling, grasping for nothing, going back to some old feelings of like sabotage or of being, unworthiness. Now I have a new vision. But what you were talking about, getting out into a new environment, new people, I just would love if you'd elaborate on that space of like, when you're like, man, I know what to do, but I just can't seem to paint this new thing.
Sure. I mean, this is a very hard thing for a lot of people because so many relationships, Laurie, are based on need, consciously or unconsciously. And we need certain things from people to reaffirm our identity. And so when you start separating yourself from those people that create the same experiences, that brand the same circuits in your brain, there's a biological death that's going on. You're pruning circuits away and it doesn't feel good. And yet, when you just do that for a period of time, you're retreating in a sense from your life. You have to retreat from that stimulation long enough to think differently. And you got to repeat it enough times that you're laying down the neurological architecture that you can use it, review it, repeat it, go over it, make sure you got it wired in there. And then you start thinking, I can't react to the person the same way. How can I react to who in history do I admire? What did they do when they came up with these situations? You start learning and saying, oh, I got it. You want to be wealthy? Read books about wealthy people. Really demystify it. I mean, many wealthy people failed miserably for years and then hit it, and they didn't even want to care about the money anymore. It's just the fact that they were able to do it. So get real and then surround yourself with people that share a vision, and surround yourself with people that have less need from you and more truly are encouraging you to stretch out and to reach your goals and dreams. Have conversations at a dinner table where you're talking quantum, you're talking neuroscience, you're talking neurobiology, you're talking epigenetics, you're engaged in something, you're talking about something that you walk away from that's causing you to think. So when you create the next day, you can assign more meaning to what you're doing. So then the withdrawal that people have from their environment, I've seen this so many times. They're just about ready to break through. And then they grab the phone and they call their whoever from their past. And like, really, you all this work and now you're going to go there, right? Now that doesn't say that everybody's bad in your life or you have a bad past. No, I have a lot of great memories from my past. But if something is not occurring for me in my life and I'm in the creative process, there's a blind spot. That's it. There's some blind spot that I have to become conscious of. So now, consciousness is awareness, and you can't have consciousness without energy. So the more aware you've become of your unconscious self, the more conscious you become, the more you change your energy. So the present problems that people have in their life are created from a certain level of consciousness. You know the formula. To create a new outcome in your life, you got to go to a greater level of consciousness than the consciousness that's created it. Well, how do you do that? Well, you got to start getting conscious of your unconscious thoughts, your unconscious behaviors, unconscious emotions. And as you do that and you become more aware, your energy is changing. So then if you do that enough times, if there's a vibrational match with the energy that you're emitting and some possibility in your future, your body's going to follow your mind to that future, that new environment, just like it follows your mind to the toilet every morning or the shower. It's the same thing. That's the known. But the unknown, then your body follows your mind to the unknown and you say, oh my God, that was so worth it. And you only need one of those. I know this. I've seen this so many times. You only need one of those. And people look back at their entire past and they don't want to change anything in their past because it brought them to that moment. And that's the moment the past no longer exists. So every great person in history understood that change was to be greater than the environment, to greater than the circumstances in your life, greater than the conditions in your world. And you got to hold a vision and begin to live as if that future reality was happening in the present moment. So here's the question. Can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the event has already occurred? Latest research in neuroplasticity says it's absolutely possible. And can you select the new potential in the quantum field, infinite potentials, and begin to emotionally embrace that future reality before it's made manifest to such a degree that your body, as the unconscious mind, is believing it's living in that future reality in the present moment, and you're signaling new genes in new ways that change your body to look like the event has already occurred. And if you do that over and over again, right? Now your brain and body are no longer living in the past. They're a map to the future. And if how you think and how you feel is a state of being, you've got the neurological circuits to think within that new state, and you have the emotions to regulate and live there. So then to do this successfully is to live by the quantum law, which says that your environment is an extension of your mind. And when you truly change your mind, your life changes. So people go to a certain point and then they give up. They give up. And it's that one extra time where you just do it and you don't expect anything. You just do it and let go. And then, you know, when the magic starts to happen, you're no longer saying, oh, I got to get up and create my future today. Your body's going, let's get up. This is exciting. Great things are happening. It's going to drag you out of bed and say, let's go, let's create, because it wants the unexpected. That's new information coming from the environment. So if you're reacting to the same people and same conditions with the same neurological circuits, and every one of those people and things and objects and places in your life has an emotion attached to it, and if the environment signals the gene, and it does, and the end product from an experience in your environment is an emotion, if you're living by the same emotion every single day, you're signaling the same genes in the same way, and now you're headed for a genetic destiny. And you've done nothing wrong. You're just taking too long. You're stuck in that emotion. So then the moment a person gets beyond the emotion, genes are like Christmas tree lights. All of a sudden you start signaling new genes. And what do genes do? They make proteins. And what do proteins do? They're responsible for the structure and function of your body. And the expression of proteins is the expression of life. The person overcomes their fear, their guilt, their pain.
Yes.
And like magic, their disease goes away because they're no longer regulating the same gene. And all they did was overcome their past. Now they belong to the future.
Okay. So I go on like potential walks. And that's literally where I take that time to just picture and move. So could you tell me a little bit about, is there something there when you're moving your body and getting into a new environment and thinking about that can accelerate that? Because it feels like an accelerator for me.
Yeah. And you're really anchored in your body. And in fact, when we do our retreats, our week-long retreats, with like 1,000, 1,500 people, depending on the city we're in, we do 4 types of meditation. There's a seated meditation, which our students are very good at. There's a standing and walking meditation, and there's a laying down meditation. And they're in hot pursuit of mastering all of those. So this happens to me quite a bit. I sit down and have a rockin' solid meditation. I feel connected. I feel great. And then I get up, I pick up my phone. There's 32 texts. I got phone calls. I got meetings, and I go unconscious like in 1 second.
Yeah.
And I'm back in the program. And I don't like that about myself. And so I started thinking, okay, let's start teaching people how to do the walking meditation. So they stand up, they close their eyes, they get heart-centered, they open their heart, they create heart coherence, they open their focus, they create brain coherence, they start tuning into the energy of their future, and now they open their eyes. And now they walk as that person, like it's already happened. They're already that person, and they embody the energy of that future. And they wear it and they feel it, and their mind is going, and they're getting great ideas. And they do that for a period of time. They're not looking around anymore. They're in trance. The music changes. They stop. They close their eyes. They raise their energy again. They connect again. They open their eyes again, and they walk that way again. And sooner or later, it's going to become a habit. And all of a sudden, when they walk from their car to their office, they're going to walk as that person because they're going to start embodying that energy. So it's not just walking, and you take it on, you take on the energy. And so we've seen people with cancer, in one walk, their cancer go away. We've seen people with very serious neurological disorders with canes and crutches drop their crutches and walk without their crutches.
Wow.
We've seen incredible things in 1 hour. We've seen our brain scans show that a person has a completely different brain just by changing their energy and walking as somebody else. And so we do it on beautiful places like along the beach in Cancun or along the lake in Berlin or wherever we're always out in nature on golf courses. And imagine 1,000 people on a beach as the sun rises, just walking.
Wow.
As their few, like sentient beings.
And all that energy from all of them.
Right. And so there is an element where when we walk, it's a subconscious process. We can access subconscious because walking is such a subconscious thing. We don't think about it. But when you start walking as your future self and you start embodying that energy and your posture changes and your movement changes and everything changes, watch out. Watch out, because you're stepping into the miraculous here. And again, walking has a strong element of us to begin to embody it. And that becomes the new habit. That's what I want to have happen.
Oh, I love hearing about that. So much of what you teach, it helps me to understand why I don't want to choose that anymore, because it's very easy to choose that thought or choose feeling bad for yourself. A lot of the different things I remember when I had first watched What the Bleep Do We Know, right? That's the right title. It was a reminder of when I thought negative things about myself or thinking that I could kind of beat myself up into going for that workout or becoming that person I wanted, but it wasn't working anymore. It worked for a short period of time. But then I had this moment of I'm actually harming myself thinking these thoughts. So I would catch myself and be like, I don't want to hurt myself. I want to love myself into this feeling, but you don't get that instant feeling, like that you're going to do this. So it is a transition period of, wait, is this loving yourself stuff and envisioning your future really going to work? And I just had to have faith because the other thing wasn't working anymore.
Well, what is faith? Believing in thought more than anything else, is it not? And I did this with my children. When they were little, would take little containers and put corn seeds in them Whenever they were angry or frustrated or whatever, I would tell them to go over and put all of that energy into that corn seed. And then 10 minutes a day before we went to bed, everybody just sent that other one, just loving, nurturing thoughts. We wanted the best, the greatest good for that seed. And the other one we never paid attention to. So we had a control, we had survival emotion, elevated emotion. And I can't tell you how many times that seed that got the negative energy got maggots, never even germinated or came out and died. And then the other one that was getting love, they would just sprout like a week before it's supposed to germinate. And my daughter, you know, I watched her wheels turning one day because her older brother was giving her some, you know, teasing her and pushing her buttons. She kind of looked over at him. She was like maybe 6, 7. She looked over at him and she looked at me and she said, you know, Jace, I'm not going to think that way or feel that way because that wouldn't be loving to me. And to this day, 28-year-old woman, every choice she makes is whether it's loving to her. She'll say, let me see how to make this choice. Is this loving to me? So in the beginning, you don't believe that those thoughts matter, but they add up.
Yes.
And so then when you start, like, it's like the garden of the mind. You got to pull the weeds out. You got to get those old plants from last year. You got to soften the soil. You got to take those rocks that are emotions that are blocking the growth and get them out of there. You got to break down the rigidity and you got to prepare it for some really great planting. And then now you're ready to plant, and then it's not over. It's a period of germination, and you're right, where nothing happens. But you got to keep investing your attention and energy into that vision. You got to build a reservoir of energy where you start believing it. You got to believe in it, and you got to water it, and you got to give it love, and you got to give it attention. You can't neglect the garden for 2 weeks and come back and expect your dream to be the same. You got to manicure everything, and then when the fruit happens in the harvest, you got to harvest and then when it happens, live it. Get engaged in it full on. If it's a relationship, if it's money, live it. You created it. It's like cooking a fabulous meal and not eating it. You don't do that. You eat it. And enjoy it. And then when you're done and it gets boring and predictable, and you choose another one. And then how many can you do? You know? And people in your life, they may not understand you, but that's okay. Because one day they'll thank you. And I always tell my children, the unknown has never let me down, ever let me down. And you got to be willing to lay down the very thing you used your whole life to get what you want for something greater to happen. And that's not something that happens in one sweep. It's practice, and it's unlearning. We have to unlearn how to do that because we're always trying to predict and force outcomes. And yet there's this delicate balance between intention and surrender. If you over-intend, you're trying. If you over-surrender, you're lethargic. So you have to be able to have an intention and trust and walk that razor's edge. And you got to stay conscious in your waking day. And the more conscious you are, the more access you have to information. Because the more conscious you are, the more access you have to energy, and energy is frequency, and all frequency carries information. So in our advanced events, we're doing brain scans on people. When people start hooking up to this field, we can predict what's going to happen. We say, oh, she's going to pop. Oh, watch this. He's going to start downloading. And all of a sudden you see the brain scan, boom, boom, boom. They start downloading data. It's not coming from the environment. It's not coming from anywhere. It's coming from the field. And they're having very profound moments. And they're doing that with their eyes closed. And it's more real than this reality that we're sitting in. And what comes with that? A level of love, or a frequency of wholeness that is so familiar and so unfamiliar that you can't forget it. And that's what you want more than anything else. It's greater than any wardrobe, any shopping spree, any sports car. This is when you feel that, you drink that wine, you want nothing else but more of that. And then that's then where we become less seduced by the environment, because you know that the environment's never going to do that. It's coming from within you. So as you begin to remove those layers, those masks, those blocks that stop the flow of the divine, that intelligence within us, the moment we start making room for it and starts to leak out of us, we become more like it. We become more loving. It's a loving intelligence. We become more giving. It's a giver of life. We become more conscious. It's a consciousness. We become more mindful. It has an infinite mind. We become more willful. It has an amazing will. Its nature becomes our nature. Its mind becomes our mind. And we're not saying, oh, I'm going to try to forgive that person. It's not like that. You can't not forgive them, because if the moment you hold them hostage, you're hostage. And so you free them and you free yourself, because you wouldn't want to trade this feeling. And forgiveness is the side effect of an awakening, in a sense. So then when this starts to happen, the environment becomes less seductive. We're not putting all of our attention now. So many people, because of the hormones of stress, the moment they react to some threat or some danger in their life, they focus their attention on the cause, the person, the object, the thing, the incident. So then they narrow their focus all the time on matter. So all of everybody's attention is on the 3D world, unless they go to sleep. But someone who's been practicing in the practice, and they have more attention on their thoughts, more attention on their feelings, more attention on their actions and their words, they have more of a balance between their attention in their inner world and their outer world. And the brain's job is to create coherence or meaning between what's going on out there and what's going on in here. So now you start resetting the baseline of the brain back to normal, where you got to pay attention to what's going on in here and not all of your attention out there. Because if you do, then you're controllable, and more than likely you're going to be a victim to whoever out there. And so when people start figuring this out, they turn the battleship around, and it's not that you react. I mean, I react. Everybody reacts. The question is, how long are you going to react? How long are you going to do that for? Are you going to do that for a week? Really? And then you're in your past, because that emotion is keeping you in your past. You can do that for 9 months. Is that going to become your temperament? You're going to do it for 3 years. That's going to become your personality. And you're going to tell the story of why you are the way you are 10 years later. And the latest research on memory says that memory's creative. The majority of people's memories aren't even the truth.
Wow.
People make stuff up just to reaffirm the fact that they haven't been able to change. So then, if not now, when? You're going to wait for crisis? You're going to wait for trauma? You're going to wait for disease? You're going to wait for diagnosis? You're going to wait for loss? You're going to wait for betrayal to finally make up your mind to change? Or you can learn and change in a state of pain and suffering. You can learn and change in a state of joy and inspiration. The new model is...
Okay, everyone, I have something big to tell you, because for the very first time, we're opening up something we have never done before. You probably know that Chris and I run our elite mastermind for entrepreneurs making $500K and up, with many of them being 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs. But now we're launching the Mentor Collective Mastermind for those of you who are in that $25K to $500K range and ready to scale. This is the most supportive mastermind on the internet. Imagine having a roundtable of mentors, a board of directors for your business that you can tap into for every roadblock that you hit. Sales funnels, finance, marketing, we've got experts for all of it. And now you don't have to sit by yourself at home, banging your head on the wall, wondering what the hell to do next. You're going to get weekly group coaching, bi-weekly calls with Chris and I, high-level trainings, and an insanely connected community that actually shows up for each other. We built the room we wish we had when we were in the stage that you're in right now. And now it's here. Spots are limited, so if this sounds like what you've been waiting for, head to loriharder.com/waitlist. And those spots are limited because we have so many incredible coaches who are in this program that we want to make sure that everything is really high touch. So you guys head on over. We would love to work with you. I literally cannot wait to meet you. So for the past few years, Chris and I have been in a really exciting, busy season of travel, whether it's for the podcast or speaking or meeting with our teams who are all over the country for both of our startups, with all the traveling that we do for work, for holidays, and also having had a lake house for 3 years that we only spent summers in. I often thought that it would be so awesome to have another family enjoy our home while we're away. We've made so many memories in Airbnbs over the years. We love to gather our family and friends together in a home away from home, whether it's for an annual Christmas ski trip that we do, or because we always want to travel back to our family for Easter every single year. And I love the idea of your home getting to be a space where other families get to make lasting memories while you get to make a little extra cash. Did you know Airbnb has a co-host network that can take care of all of the details for you? With the co-host network, you can hire a quality local co-host to take care of your home and guests. Experienced co-hosts can support you with everything from creating your listing to managing reservations, messaging guests, and more. Find a co-host at airbnb.com/host.
Let's be creators. Why not?
Yeah, I feel like if we don't choose a wake-up call, we're going to get one anyway.
Yeah. The soul's going to negotiate something.
It's going to figure something out for you. It won't feel like it's for you, but it is. I want to talk about your events in a minute because number one, it's on my list of what I want to do next year. Hopefully you're still doing.
Oh, we will.
Okay, good. That's your thing. And you just really reminded, I'm in a moment right now of creating something totally new that I've never, ever done before. I'm actually about to go this weekend and perform like poetry or spoken word at my friend's event of 2,000 people. I've never done it. And in order to create, I had to get in that field of letting go of everything, letting go of the fear, letting go of the thoughts, letting go and actually getting into that feeling. And it was like, I had to tell myself that I was calling on something so much bigger than me to get what I wanted to create because I didn't believe that I could do it.
Right.
So when you said you painted the perfect picture for me, like just you open up and you download it when you let go of everything else, my energy stops going to all of those thoughts. And all of a sudden you're open to thoughts bigger than you.
Exactly. And where you place your attention is where you place your energy. And if you're truly in the present moment, you got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You got a lot of energy to create. So I think that great artists and great poets and great mystics, musicians, Mozart, Da Vinci, Madame Curie, they loved isolation. They always liked to get in that state. They didn't want to lose the magic, right? And friends of mine that are composers are that way too. They just need that moment where they just disconnect from everything material. And now they're in the workshop of the mind and you're going to think and it's your signature. It's your divine. You get a new way to express yourself or express your divinity, whether it's through word or music or whatever it is. You start to master something. So my definition of the creative moment is when I forget about myself. That's when I completely forget I'm Joe Dispenza.
That's so good.
I'm there. And so that means then you got to unclutter yourself. And if people who spend their whole life being a somebody or a someone or something, owning something and living somewhere in some time, all of their identity is connected to their environment.
Oh man.
They're going to have a difficult time getting beyond themselves because they're always going to be looking for their environment to reaffirm who they think they are as an identity. But at the end of your life, take the environment away. Who are you left with? That's the real question, right?
Oh, that's so good. And I think that was one of the biggest struggles is going, wow, nobody knows me as this. What are they going to say? This is so scary. Like half of it was detaching from that. Like, can't I just go back to what I know I'm good at?
Yeah, exactly.
This seems so much easier. Let me just speak there. So I could so see that. So your events, tell me about your events.
Well, after What the Bleep, I listened closely to people's questions in the Q&As when I was with all the researchers and scientists. And the most common questions people asked were like, how do you do it? If your personality creates your personal reality, I got to change my personality to create a new personal reality. Why is it so hard to change? So I thought they were great questions. So we started doing workshops to teach people the how to and demystify it. You combine a little quantum physics, a little neuroscience, a little neuroendocrinology, a little psychoneuroimmunology, a little epigenetics. All of those sciences point the finger at possibility. And science is the language that unifies a community because you start talking tradition or culture or religion, everybody shuts off. But science brings people together. And I like the scientifically based approach because nothing's left to conjecture. Nothing's left to superstition. Nothing's left to dogma. So we started doing these events, and then all of a sudden we started seeing, after a couple of years, miracles starting to happen. I mean, crazy stuff. And so then I said, okay, I'm going to change the format. And I started doing these advanced 4.5 day events for people that had done all the other trainings. And I wanted people that were really into the work. And we did a lot of scientific measurements during that time. And we did 8,500 brain scans before an event, and then we measure their brain after. And I wanted to know the changes weren't just in their mind, they were in their brain.
Yeah.
We did a lot of measurements with the heart. You know, when you feel angry or frustrated or impatient, your heart beats out of order. When you feel gratitude and kindness and care, your heart has a very strong rhythm. And it's that rhythm, that coherence, that begins to produce an invisible magnetic field that emanates from your body. So now you're starting to connect. So as I said, we've measured neurotransmitters and immune responses and telomeres and genetic expression. We've spent a lot of time. And I now know, without a doubt, that people can do the uncommon. I now know that people can become supernatural. So we did 19, Laurie, of those advanced events all over the world. And we have data and amazing scientific history we've created. But then I said, you know what? Right around Saturday or Sunday, people are breaking through and I got to send them home. So I thought, let's can all the research stuff now. We've got enough data now. Let's do a week-long event and let's take people on this fascinating ride and let them get beyond themselves. Let's teach them how to create. Let's bring in all kinds of walking meditations, laying down meditations to stimulate the mystical experiences. I mean, it's a fun time. It's a really amazing time. And so we do these week-long events. And at the end of these events, we see the most incredible transformations that, to me, I thought I would never witness in my lifetime. Honestly. And I keep telling my staff, I'm waking up in my dream. I'm waking up in my dream, because you can't tell me you're too old to do this work. We got people in their 80s whose brain scans are elegant. You can't tell me you're too sick to do this work. We got sick people with 50 brain tumors or brain cancer or MS or lupus, Hodgkin's lymphoma that are normal. And there were days they didn't want to do the work and they did it anyway. There were days they had a lot of fear. They did it anyway. You can't tell me you had a turbulent past and that you just can't do it. We have a lot of people with turbulent pasts that overcame them. And are different people. You can't tell me you're too old, too young, too overweight, too underweight, that you've never meditated before. Sometimes people who never meditated have the most amazing scans. They're just wide open. So if you get a community of people together and they can retreat from their lives and remove the constant stimulation from their external environment that reminds them of who they think they are as a personality, to separate themselves from the people they know and the place they go and the things they do at the exact same time every day, long enough for me to remind them that they're the creators of their life and challenge them and give them all the science. And then I now know that if you take a group of people and you give them sound scientific information, and every time they learn something new, they're making new connections in their brain. That's what learning is. But if learning is making new synaptic connections, then remembering is maintaining. So in our workshops, I develop a concept or an idea, and then I say, Laurie, turn to the person next to you and explain it.
Wow.
Well, if you can't explain it, it's not wired in your brain.
Yes.
But between two people, they start building a model of understanding. And so the more they understand what they're doing and why, how it gets easier, because they're installing the neurological hardware in their brain
so good
in preparation for the experience. So now they're prepared. So then if I can set up the conditions in the environment and give them the proper instruction, and if they can get their behaviors to match their intentions and their actions equal to their thoughts, they're going to have some type of new experience or transformation.
Yes.
And that transformation is literally going to change them, and they're going to meet truth at a different level. Why? Because experience changes us. Experience enriches those circuits in our brain. And the end product of an experience is called an emotion. And all of a sudden, there goes fear, and here comes joy. And then we do it again. There goes fear, here comes more joy. And you keep doing that over and over again. You start conditioning and making those changes. So then every experience that they have means that if they've done it once, they should be able to do it again. And if you keep repeating the experience, when you feel the emotion of the first experience, you're embodying the truth of that philosophy. Here, you're starting to feel it in your body. You're embodying the truth. You're chemically teaching your body to understand what your mind has intellectually understood.
Yes.
So knowledge is for the mind, experience is for the body. So you've done it once. You hit a golf ball well, you should be able to do it again. So then you start repeating the experience, you begin to neurochemically condition your mind and body to work as one. Now you're in a state of being. Now you're mastering that philosophy. Now it's innate in you. It's automatic. It's easy. It's effortless. And now then people start going from thinking to doing to being, from philosopher to initiate to master, from mind to body to soul, from knowledge to experience to wisdom, to learning with your head, applying with your hands, and knowing it by heart. And so we've done these all kinds of different wonderful things during the week-longs, but what's I'm really excited about recently are these coherence healings that we're doing. We're teaching people that it's not matter that emits a field. It's the field that creates matter. You don't have to change matter. You just have to change the field. And if you change the field, you change matter. And so we take people that are sick and we lay them down and we create what's called a cage. 8 people around them, 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, 1 at the head, 1 at the feet. And person has to get beyond themselves. They have to open their heart and they have to know how to hold a coherent state. And they lay those hands into the field of the person below them. And in 10 minutes, we have seen tumors disappear. We have seen blind people that were blind from birth seeing again. I mean, just crazy, crazy stuff. And I've seen bodies lay there that have never been touched, just moving all over the floor involuntarily. I mean, energy is moving these bodies. And it's really outstanding. And people are getting up very, very changed. And it's a super, super cool thing. We're documenting it now because it's just really off the hook.
Wow. Oh, well, I'm there.
You have to come. Bring handsome pants with you.
I will bring handsome pants.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely going to go. That it's been a goal of mine since I've been talking to Kristen, who connected us.
Oh, cool.
She's amazing. So I know that you said you have some tickets left for Cancun in December.
Yeah. So the biggest problem that we have, Lori, with our events is that they sell out so fast. So
a problem.
So we put, it's a crazy problem. No, it really
is a good problem.
No,
yes,
it really is a problem because we do challenge activities in addition to walking meditations on the beach. So we need a big place to hold 1,000 people. We need a beach.
Yes.
And then we need room for a challenge activity like in Toronto. The challenge activity that we did is we had almost 1,000 people rappel off the top of the Westin in downtown Toronto.
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
We're not doing that for adrenaline rush.
Right.
People have practiced in my work heart coherence and brain coherence, and they can do it really well. We got the measurements with their eyes closed in a peaceful room, music playing. It's all safe. But now let's take them to the edge.
Yeah.
And let's see now if they're able to create heart and brain coherence when it matters the most in that moment. And if you can do it there, you'll be able to do it in your life because most people, the moment they feel those feelings, they don't think they have control of them. And so we do these crazy, wild challenge activities. So my interest, I have no interest in doing keynote presentations and conferences. I mean, I'm bored. I mean, I've owned it. I mean, I want to be with doers. I don't want to talk about history. I want to make history. And that's what we're doing. We're making history.
Yes, you are. And I've heard from many, 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 many people, and you're just doing so much work right now. And I want to acknowledge you for showing up the way that you do and for impacting my life in such a massive way and so many people that I know. And I know this is just the very beginning for you. And truly, it has affected my life. And I feel like when you walked through the door, I was like, he kind of has created so much of my life here by changing the way that I think. And that is powerful because I feel like I've also been able to gift that forward with people to help change.
For me, I mean, number one, you're the living example of truth. And we need more living examples of truth. And secondly, the greatest compliment that anybody could give me is that, like, I did it and it worked. That's, to me, it's way more valuable. There's nothing more valuable to me than when people say, hey, I did the work and I'm healthy. I did the work and I have a new life. I did the work and my anxiety's gone. I did the work and I have a new career. That's why I'm doing this, because I believe that everybody can do it, not just a select group of people or a special group or an academic or a scholar or a monk. That we're wired to create. That's who we are. I mean, there's a divine spark in us that we got to start using more of. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I don't want this to end, but It kind of has to. I'm just like, one more. What's your website that we can go get the tickets, and where's the best spot to follow your journey?
So we just built a whole new website. It's really beautiful. It's just drjoedispenza.com.
Awesome.
And there's just all kinds of resources there, and, get started or whatever, and there's tons of meditations now that we have, and a lot of different, videos, podcasts, lectures,
awesome.
audios. It's all there. Yeah.
Awesome. I will make sure that we link that up, put it in the show notes. You guys read the books, go follow him, go find him. Truly, your life will change. I'm sure you already feel that through this podcast. And thank you so much for listening. And if you loved it, make sure you share it with your friends, because they all need this. So text them right now, this episode, let them know their life is about to change. And until next time, earn your happy. Bye, everyone.